All right, let's get into Worlds Collide. This is what it's like when worlds
Okay,
collide.
A, Power Man 5000 100% should have been the theme song for this show. B, interesting news tidbit that I didn't know if you were or were not aware of. Did you know they actually tried to reach out to Mike Tenay in order to be part of the broadcast team for this
I
show?
did not. I don't even know why you think I'd know that, but I did not know.
I figured you would find it interesting all the same.
I do. I loved Mike Tenay. Mike, can I tell you, in all the years I watched Nitro, Mike Tenay was my favorite announcer.
Same.
You know who my least favorite announcer was?
Tony Schiavone?
Mongo
Oh.
McMichael. Mongo McMichael was the drizzling shits. Mongo,
Rest in peace, Steve.
I don't mean to speak ill of the dead, but Mongo McMichael was
No, he was horrible.
And it was funny. Like I very passionately hated Mongo McMichael. I hated him as a wrestler. I hated him as everything. I was like, please go back to football.
Mongo was a below average wrestler. He was an even worse than that commentator.
Yeah. And then he was part of the Horsemen. What a legacy of terrible people in that organization.
Well, to be fair, Paul Romo was a Horseman, which tells you all you need to know.
Still better than Mongo.
I disagree.
You're out of your mind.
Paul Romo was the drizzling shits and got fired for being unprofessional on pay-per-view.
Still better than Mongo.
Disagree.
Okay. We shall agree to disagree. Worlds Collide was a professional wrestling live streaming event. And
hello, Wikipedia.
Co-produced by Shut Up! You're rapist. By the American promotion, WWE, and its Mexican sister promotion, Lucha Libre AAA Worldwide. By the way, Conan looks like Mexican grandpa. Oh, he did not age well. They say black don't crack, but let me tell you, Conan looked like a pile of crispy, crumbly crackers. Conan looked rough, man.
I don't disagree. Well, in fairness, Conan was barely able to get around for the longest time there because of wasn't he like partially? Didn't he have like a stroke and was partially paralyzed for a while?
Like I'm like people are like, you're so mean, Rattles. I'm like, I'm not saying. Look, he's earned every bit of everything he's ever gotten. I love Conan to death. I miss my
hooty hoo.
I miss my arriba la raza. We bow to. I love his Mexican gibberish. Always have, always will.
In the process,
and who amongst us isn't going to look the way he did when we're that old? But they put these guys on camera, and it's like it looked like he was being held up, by other little Mexicans around him. They're all like fucking puppeteering him around.
It's a good thing it was a supportive chair.
Yeah, that they had him stapled to.
Well, if you watched Raw, you said you didn't watch Raw the next night. They showed him in the crowd on Raw the next night, and they like the luchador acknowledgement thing, and the two luchadors sitting next to him stood up and acknowledged the crowd. Conan wanted to stand up and couldn't stand up.
I don't doubt it.
He was able to stand up on the second time of trying, but the first.
To say, he did a good job on commentary, though. I think him being there was important. Obviously, you needed somebody knowledgeable. It would have been nice if it had been Conan and Mike Tenay. That would have been the shit.
See, I'm okay with Corey being there, though. I think Corey showed up and showed out here. He actually put in a really good performance.
I have no complaints. I just think it would have been better. One of the things I liked about WCW in its early years was the Mike Tenay Lucha Libre show.
The early cruiserweight division stuff, yes.
Yeah. Because it felt. We've talked about this a million times. We'll talk about it a million more. When wrestling makes it feel like it's real, it's a much more enjoyable product. And Mike Tenay talked about Lucha Libre wrestling like it was the very real thing. Like I went along for the ride because of the knowledge that Mike Tenay brought.
I was going to say, I don't think that's so much on the wrestling as it is on the performance art of Mike Tenay and the fact that
that's what I'm saying, Harry.
Yeah, but I think this is a situation where Tenay added so much to the characters and so much to the presentation there that I don't think Tenay ever got the proper credit that he deserved, both in WCW and especially for his run in TNA, which, given some of the people he was left to work with in TNA, that man was a goddamn miracle worker in TNA at times.
A lot of Mongo McMichaels in TNA.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I like Don West. Rest in peace, Don West. But early Don West is fucking horrid to listen to. It is Mongo bad.
Everyone has the Chris Kloss disease where they're doing wrestling commentator voice, instead of just being up and and being involved, they have to everyone has to do their worst impression of Joey Styles.
I hate to say this, we're not going to have to go back and do an old XPW show. I feel like we have to, just because we shit on XPW so much.
Well, they were mean to me. So anyway, I
want to go back and do a show from that era.
As I was saying, it was the fourth Worlds Collide under the WWE banner and took place Saturday, June 7th at the Kia Forum in Inglewood in the Hood, California. It featured wrestlers from WWE's Raw, SmackDown, and NXT brand, and from AAA, which WWE signed a letter of intent to acquire in April of 2025, but as of the time of the event has not been formalized.
The belief is that the purchase is going to close in the second half of 2025, probably around September or October.
The event also featured the involvement of wrestlers from TNA, a partner promotion of both WWE and AAA, such as Octagon Jr. and Laredo Kid.
Correct.
So let's go through these. The six-man tag was Octagon Jr., Aerostar, and Mr. Iguana, who was the fucking highlight of this whole event. And they defeated the Latino World Order of Dragon Lee, Cruz del Toro, and Lince Dorado.
No, the fucking highlight of the event was Lince Dorado giving Mr. Iguana's plushy iguana a Spanish fly. I fucking howled.
It's so funny that, like, wrestling fans latch on to stuff, and it's such a, like, especially during the Vince years, you're a rapist. How they tried to control they were putting out versus what the fans would react to. They really tried to reduce wrestling to like a mathematical formula balanced on both sides, and they could never control for what the fans would latch onto because the fans are idiots.
It was a case of control your narrative before that became an EC3 gimmick.
He needs to stop. But
I don't think it's a gimmick anymore. I'm pretty sure that's dead and buried at this point.
It still needs to stop. My point is that, like, because no matter what you plan for, no matter what you try to solve for, you can never predict a reaction to Mr. Iguana. And I laughed my ass off at it. I was hooting and hollering and having just a grand old time.
So you know what I think it is? I think it's a larger scale version of Danhausen.
Danhausen!
It's that innate charisma that you can't deny. It just jumps at you through the screen.
Danhausen!
Speaking of which, his contract's about to expire, and I understand that he does have a friend in Phil in the WWE nowadays.
He's like as tall as my son, though.
I could see him as an NXT guy.
Only an NXT guy.
You know, I don't disagree with that, but you're telling me you couldn't see him as a guy feuding with Ethan Page for the North American title? I absolutely could see that.
Because they're willing, because they've had so many shorties in
Adam Cole is like NXT. 5'5" and 150 pounds.
Yeah, no, they've had some short guys in NXT, and that's why I'm not really arguing with you about it. They absolutely, I think Danhausen sells a lot of shirts. Danhausen, it's got a fun character.
One of the most popular.
The one guy who I loved, but I love shooters. With the missing teeth, he had a run with Matt Riddle there for a little while.
Tom Lawler?
No, not Filthy Tom Lawler. The other guy that was doing like the catch wrestling school thing.
Timothy Thatcher.
Yeah. They had Timothy Thatcher, who looks like, he never met a bar fight he didn't like.
Or one.
Yeah. And they had him there, so there's no reason to not have.
Thatcher's under contract again, actually.
Is he really? To do what?
He's working as a trainer with Evolve.
Oh, well, that makes all the sense in the world. So what do you think of this match? I focus on the score of the women's basketball game.
I thought the 6-man tag to start the show was the right decision there, and I think that when you get a wrestler that the fans are organically into like that, it helps the other participants around them. Specifically, it made life so much easier for Lince to be able to get the LWO some actual investment there, some crowd heat there when he went after Layeska.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like I said, I'm making a big deal out of the Mr. Iguana guy because he stood up. But the whole match was like it was very WCW Lucha era cruiserweight 6-man tag Nitro.
Well, I'll put it to you this way. Mr. Iguana was shown on both Raw and NXT after Worlds Collide, so it tells you who the star of this match was.
I was going to say, watch him get signed to like a main roster somewhere, and then they'll put him on a lawnmower, and he'll be a Mexicool.
Assuming Juventud can avoid doing drugs in Australia.
So, because it was a push, I won $158 on a $50 bet. Would have been $244 had they actually gone over $223.
Again, you're welcome for the Braves.
Okay. Continue to take credit you don't deserve. That's fine.
That's kind of what I do on this podcast.
So let's move on to the next match, or talk about my gambling. Stephanie Vaquer and Lola Vice defeated...
Excuse me, say her name correctly.
Oh, Stephanie Vader.
Thank you.
And Chick Tormenta, which is a fantastic name. I once saw Chick Tormenta open up for Metallica in 1989 at the Nassau Coliseum. And Dallas by pinfall, and this was good. I wasn't paying as close attention to this one as maybe I should have, but I thought this was a good match. I thought the women acquitted themselves well. Nobody was klutzy. I thought this was a really good match.
I think that the main purpose of this match was to showcase Lola Vice, because we know what Stephanie Vaquer is capable of. Mm-hmm. Dalise is 50. She's never going to get a main WWE run. No offense.
Right.
And Chick Tormenta is somebody who's going to be a niche performer at best. Yeah. Lola Vice is somebody who they've had really high hopes for in NXT and who has a lot of mainstream crossover appeal from her MMA run under her real name of Valerie Laredo.
Okay.
So this was an opportunity to showcase her, to put her in the ring with an up-and-coming star as her partner in Stephanie Vaquer, and to say that this is a girl who can be at that same level that Vaquer is if you guys will give her the chance to reach it.
Next match was Legado del Fantasma of Santos, Escobar, Angel, and Berto defeated El Hijo de Dr. Wagner Jr., Pagano, and Psycho Clown.
Okay, let's first of all talk about the stupid-ass bump that Pagano took, because, Jesus, what in the name of Chris Hamrick was that shit? God damn.
That was a rough bump, man.
You know you're getting old when you look at a wrestling performance now, and you're like, yeah, I wouldn't get up from that. I wouldn't get up from that. I probably wouldn't get up from that.
Do you remember Sammy Guevara versus Cody? I think it was, where they did the ladder match on one of AEW.
The title unification Dynamite one. The TNT title unification ladder match.
But it was one of their Clash of the Champion shows.
Battle of the Belts.
Right. And Sammy Guevara took a 12-foot fall on his gut across a ladder, and I thought he died. Then you have Matt Hardy falling directly on his head off a platform at, Assholes.
And he almost did die.
Yeah, at Assholes in the Arena or whatever it was called.
That's a pretty accurate assessment of the match.
Yeah, it was that kind of bump. I was like, oh my God, why would you do? And here's the thing, the Matt Hardy one was just poor wrestling. It was, they didn't take care of each other, and
Hardy smacked his head on the concrete.
And and that wasn't how that was supposed to go. The Sammy Guevara one is him being an idiot and him going, I have to kill myself to get over these days.
I mean, basically, that therein lies the problem there. Well, you're familiar with what I mean when I say the Chris Hamrick bump, yes?
Yes.
So there are going to be some people out there that have no idea what the hell I'm talking about. Hamrick used to take a hands-free bump through the middle rope to the floor flat back. Why? Because Chris Hamrick was a fucking moron.
Yeah, and here's the thing. I think Mick Foley was saying it in the 90s, and other people have, John Cena's saying it now. When you think about what is at the heart of John Cena thing, it's don't kill yourself for the fans. They won't remember it. They don't appreciate it. They'll cheer in the moment. The moment will pass, and you will stay with an injury and not be able to continue to do what you're doing or do other things that bring quality to your life. And another guy will come up behind you and do something even dumber.
So I'm not a fan of the guy, but it is interesting to go back and read old issues of The Observer.
Mm-hmm.
and to see things about, especially back in the time frame when Dave knew what the fuck he was talking about.
Wait, when he wasn't
So,
Baghdad Bob for AEW?
yeah, pretty much. When he wasn't on the corporate, when he was on the corporate blood money dick sucking. There you go. There's a visual for you. Anyways, the point being is that he talks about Mick Foley and Sabu when they're in their formative years back in like the early 90s. And he says, enjoy them while you can because they won't last long doing what they do. And in Foley's case, he was absolutely correct because Foley was more or less retired within 6 years.
Yeah.
It's a situation of you're doing what you're doing in the moment for the business, a business that owes you nothing, that you owe whatever popularity you get out of it to the business, but you're doing it at the expense of your own personal well-being. And that is a choice that you have to be willing to make in order to reach that level.
If you have a time machine and you can go back and change one event, it would be interesting to see what Mick Foley's career would have become had he not attempted suicide at King of the Ring.
I think that while it may have caused a relational strife with Colette and the fact that she was pissed off at him for doing what he did at King of the Ring, Mick Foley doesn't become Mick Foley without King of the Ring.
Right. You know, in a year and a half later, because that's June, and he gets the world title in like December of the following year.
January.
No, it was the December Raw.
January of 99, January 4th, 1999.
Is that when it was? Okay.
Yep.
I thought it was late December, but you're probably
It was taped late December of in 1998, but
oh my God, then we're both right.
6 months later.
But yeah, like, does he get that title win over The Rock?
No.
Does he get that push? And the answer
No.
is probably not. No, right. And I think that's I'm bringing it up because I think it's the math a lot of guys do. Like, here's
Risk
the problem,
versus
though.
reward.
How many more King of the Ring bumps are there in this world that are going to have that level of impact?
And that's the sad thing is that there's going to be people chasing that bump, that infamy, that level high of high.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually we're going to see a situation of one of those bumps is attempted and it ends up in a situation where something like what happened to Dross happens.
Yeah.
And
So
Dross was...
I'll do another one for you. You know, Jeff Hardy's spear, you know, in the middle of by Devon Dudley in the
Edge
rather.
TLC 2 at WrestleMania.
What am I thinking about with Devon Dudley then? I know he was hanging at one point.
Devon did a spot where he was hanging from the belt with Christian.
Right.
He kicked Christian off, and then Devon got ladder shotted by Edge in the ribs, and he flat backed to the canvas.
But it's Edge who spears Jeff Hardy
Correct.
off the in the middle in midair.
He does that at the first TLC at SummerSlam in 2000, and then he does it at TLC 3, which is the one that happens on SmackDown in 2001.
So my point is, like, the only other one I can think of where you're looking at it like, oh my God, with the, you know, pretty huge risk for for an undetermined amount of reward was that one. Because ever since then, have guys done stupider bumps? Yes, but were they as impactful? No. The last impactful bump of that magnitude was the Jeff Hardy spear.
I mean, it's hard to think of one off the top of my head. No, I'll give you one that I do think was impactful after that. It also involved Edge, actually, the flaming table spear with Foley.
But all right, Edge was already a made guy, and as was Foley. I'm talking about, like,
in order to make your name with a bump. Okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like,
Janela in the Indies, you could make the argument with the roof bump with Zandik at Tournament of Survival.
That's the best Chinese food place in the basement of an abandoned building behind a door that says "Beware the Leopard."
I am aware of where you're going with that, yes. But does Joey Janela become who Joey Janela is without that bump?
I guess not. But where Joey Janela finally lands is not nearly as prominent as Foley or Jeff Hardy. But
he's been able to make a career and a life for himself.
Somebody's like, I guarantee you, people listening to this are going to be like, but this guy's bump and this guy's bump. Like the one lunatic who did the tightrope walk around the cage.
Elix Skipper.
TNA. Yeah. The fact that I don't even remember his fucking name. You know, like Elix Skipper did an awesome, amazing bump. And
Elix Skipper was retired within 3 years.
That's what I'm saying. Like, guys are like, I have to throw myself off a Hell in the Cell in order to get the level of popularity Mick Foley did. That's like saying I have to recreate the Beatles. You can't recreate the Beatles. Only the Beatles can be the Beatles. After that, it's just you just sound like them.
You're doing your best tribute act. No, I agree.
Right. Here's the thing. It's one thing to do "Can't Buy Me Love." It's a whole other thing to land, to throw yourself off a 12-foot fucking precipice onto your head inside of an ordinary drinking glass. Observe.
I'm trying to get the reference there.
That would be a cartoon. That's the dog doing the high dive.
Yeah.
I will dive into an ordinary drinking glass. Observe.
The Looney Tunes bit. Yes.
Yes. Okay. So anyway, yeah, I wish these guys would see that there is no attaining the heights of Mick Foley at this point by doing those kinds of bumps.
I would like to say that it's going to get better, but I think we both know it's not.
No, because nobody has this level of insight. I am a genius.
It's more of a case of there's not this level of self-awareness in the business of professional wrestling.
That too, I guess. Speaking of self-awareness, Ethan Page defeated Javon Evans, Laredo Kid, and Ray Phoenix by pinfall. This was your normal, average,
disagree.
Fantastic.
Okay, the fantastic
four-man NXT match. Like this didn't fit. Everything up to this felt like it could have been a AAA match. This one felt solidly NXT.
Well, but when you're doing the Worlds Collide aspect of it, you needed that NXT feel for this show as well.
Okay.
I'm
okay about it.
And I'm okay with that too. And you got the luchador influence in this match as well with Laredo Kid, who was representing both CNA and AAA, as you talked about earlier when you did your Wikipedia read, as well as Ray Phoenix, who has a storied history in AAA with both as an individual performer and with his brother Pentagon.
All right, and then the main event. El Hijo del Vikingo defeated Chad Gable by pinfall. Good match. Chad Gable's a great hand,
Good match is significantly underselling this match.
All right, well, significantly oversell it then.
Okay. This is your 2025 match of the year leader right now.
Really? Probably should pay closer attention to it then.
I'd go back and rewatch it.
Okay.
I'm genuinely serious when I say that. It is my current clubhouse leader for match of the year for 2025.
Fair enough. So
Vikingo is one of those guys where he takes a lot of really stupid risks. And when they land, they look spectacular, but he crashes and burns almost as often as he lands the spot. There was one particular spot there, that back flipping 450 that he did where he was facing out towards the crowd and then rope spun into the Phoenix Splash 450, that my jaw dropped because there's like a handful of people in the world that have the athleticism to pull that off.
So overall, I thought Worlds Collide was a fun event. It took me a minute to realize it was on YouTube and not Peacock, and I almost threw my remote through the television. Because I was trying to find it. I'm like, why?
Well, because AAA airs on Max in Mexico, so they couldn't have put the show on Peacock.
Okay, I'm fine with that. I'm not mad that it wasn't on Peacock. It was like I thought it was. So when I couldn't find it, initially I was getting irritated.
You had a near aneurysm trying to find the damn show. No, I get it.
Yeah. But this was how I spent part of my birthday week. My mom was like, I want to take you out to dinner. And I'm like, no, there's Worlds Collide and Money in the Bank, so we'll go to lunch. My mom's like, but I want to spend more time with you. And I'm like, then come over and watch wrestling. She was like, not that much more time. So
it's basically how it is with me trying to get my girlfriend to watch wrestling sometimes.
Yeah. So I enjoyed, a couple hours of watching Worlds Collide. I kind of miss Nitro. I miss the lucha wrestling. And you're like, oh, and this is where everyone's like, oh, then watch these 20 shows. No, the answer is no. This has to be convenient for me. And this was a solid night of wrestling that I blocked out, made lasagna, the whole deal, to, sit and watch it. And I got the kind of like my fix of lucha wrestling that's at a higher tier than other times that I used to watch the AAA show that used to be on back in the 90s and early 2000s, where it was all right, but it felt a little underproduced.
Are you referring to the WWE AAA show with Super Astros or the actual AAA show that used to be on like Universal?
The actual, yeah. There was a point where DVRs were just coming out, where I DVR'd every wrestling and MMA and boxing thing there was to watch.
I DVR every wrestling thing there is to watch currently still, so I get it. We were discussing this a little bit in our build-up towards the show. We talked about it on Sunday, and I sent you a message, and I'm going to quote myself from the message that I sent you. Going to be hard to talk about Worlds Collide. I don't know what I expected, but show of the year so far wasn't it.
Okay.
I don't think there was a single miss on this entire show. Everything was good to great wrestling.
Yeah.
The storytelling was fantastic. Corey Graves and Conan did a fantastic job at the announce table. They paid tribute to the history of Lucha Libre with all the video packages and the Rey Mysterio thing at the end, at the beginning. They also used it to build future stuff by having Dominic Mysterio involved at ringside after the first match in order to set up the match at Money in the Bank against Octagon Jr. Granted, the match only went like 5 minutes, but whatever. They used it as a platform in order to get a star for Lucha Libre.
I have never enjoyed Dominic Mysterio more than I do right this very moment.
He is on such a heater of a run right now. It is incredible how.
You talk about like Braun Breaker gets wrestling. Yes, so does Dominic.
Dominic started getting it once they let Dominic stop being Rey Mysterio's kid and be himself.
When they started letting him be Eddie Guerrero's kid.
Yeah, pretty much. Did you see the picture that he posted about taking the IC title to Eddie's gravesite?
No.
I said to myself, "Oh, he wants to see his dad. How nice."
I do wonder, because I don't really know Dominic Mysterio as a person, obviously. I'm wondering, like, how much of his current character is his actual personality just tuned up. Like how much of this was, how much did he ache against the barriers that were placed on him being Rey Mysterio's milquetoast baby face son? And when he was like, okay, well, we're going to let you, kind of like with The Rock, we're just going to let you be you, make it entertaining, or you're not going to last long. And he's like, finally, I get to be myself. And he's like, and he's like an asshole greasy Mexican.
I mean, another applicable comparison here would be the Cena rapper gimmick.
Yeah.
The thing that saved Cena's job. That's basically Dominic Mysterio right now with his dirty Dom persona. It saved his job, because I guarantee you, if he would have stayed milquetoast babyface Dom Mysterio, he'd have been fired within 2 years.
Oh, no, yeah, he wouldn't be here now. But that's my point. Like, how much of this is his invention, and how much of this is like my real personality? I'm
just a douchebag.
I'm just a douchebag. Yeah, I'm an entitled asshole douchebag. My dad's a superstar wrestler, and
don't like me, fight me.
Right. Yeah. And I can and I pull hot blondes.
Seriously, that dude's batting percentage is insane.
He's not a bad-looking kid. I can see why girls get wet for him.
And apparently now Roxy's on the case too.
Good for Dom. Dom, never get married, but pull as many bitches as you can. That's what I.
The irony of that is he's already married.
What is monogamy, Harry Broadhurst? It's just a word.
Oh, that's a completely different conversation that we don't have time to get into on this episode of the Insiders.
And I'm halfway kidding. All right, so that is our. So, what is monogamy? Just a word is the phrase that pays here on the Rattlehead Broadcasting Network. So that is the end of our show.
Basically, if you only have time to watch a couple of matches, Iguana, the 6-man opener, in order to see the viral sensation that Mr. Iguana became out of it. And again, maybe the funniest spot of the year with Lince Dorado giving the La Yesca a Spanish fly. Right. The NXT North American 4-way and the main event are the 3 matches of the 5 that you really need to see, in my opinion.